listening to Polymatic.media, episode 56 for April 7th, 2019. Welcome to the Polymaticast. Hey, John, how's it going?
Pretty good. How are you doing, Alan?
Good. We just had our 2-hour therapeutic monthly catch-up. not recorded mostly anywhere.
Yeah, we might as well record a podcast at some point.
Yeah, we just it was like, oh yeah, it's like almost 2 hours later. Why don't we actually record the podcast? Oh yeah, that's a good idea. So, what you been up to? What's going on?
I watched Shazam last night. That's,
apparently filmed in Philly.
Yeah, I saw some recognizable places.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk too much about that because it wasn't that good in my opinion.
Yeah.
It has a lot of flaws.
Mm-hmm. Sure, I'm sure it does.
Yeah, so that was pretty good.
Well, most
besides
movies today are not. You're not going to have emotional epiphanies about how great the what they do or what they just did to your emotions. Right? We don't have a lot of those. We have a lot of vapid, boom explosion movies today, and they're very good at that, but they're not great at being like moral center focuses of brilliance. We don't have a lot of those anymore.
What I think is when you look at it, when you compare this to the Marvel thing, right? So they have this plan for years. They have consistency between the movies, right? They have growth within the movie. So for the first Iron Man movie, you see lots of things that they don't do in later movies, right? So there's, but you don't see that with the DC stuff, right? They keep making the same mistakes over and over. So on one hand, they want to be too gritty. The other one, they want to be too funny, right? And you see that in Marvel movies too, but they know what kind of movie they're making. So every movie is a different genre. So they have the funny ones, right? So with Ant-Man and Guardians, there's more humor in it, right? And then there's the more serious ones, the Iron Mans, the Captain Americas and stuff like that. But they pull it off.
You're not just buying packaging, you're buying packaging with actual worthy contents, and that's what Marvel does.
They're pretty good at it.
They also really have one primary consultant for all of its movies.
Yeah.
So this is where, in the case when you look at like the DC movies, where the democracy doesn't work, where in the case of the Marvel movies, a center focus point, a single point of failure, which is also part of its high value add, is that there's a center conduit of a lot of the thinking and choice, decision making, and how the story should tie up together, and how the writing should work, and how the direction goes, and how the cinematography is consistent, and how the product is made. Right? There's one center baker for all this, for the whole chemistry, for the whole thing. But in DC, it's not exactly the same thing. You get a bunch of very capable directors and writers making the product, and they're trying to up their game on a consistent basis to follow what Marvel's doing. But Marvel
the
established
connection between the movies is like, might as well build alternate universes, right?
Right.
So they're not making a one cohesive. They don't have a plan for a story, right? So they have the Justice League, but we all know how that happened and what that looked like.
Yeah. Well,
I don't want to be too down on it, right?
Yeah.
Because
look,
it was an entertaining movie of sorts, right? Shazam, but
I saw Aquaman last night. Finally, I enjoyed it, but I'm on board with Jason Momoa as like sort of a badass character, because we got that in Stargate Atlantis, and so I'm used to him playing that kind of level of character, and he does it very effectively. I enjoyed it for all its various flaws.
Well, it's like I think from what I've seen of him in like Stargate Atlantis and all the other stuff that he's done, and then the stuff he does off camera with like when you hear about what he does, He's just playing himself, right? He's doing the same thing as
He's playing a version of himself.
Yeah, it's the same thing as Robert Downey Jr. apparently does.
Well, Robert Downey Jr. He's a really good actor. I've seen him do some very particular things. You go, holy wow. But at this point, the personas are starting to align. I heard this thing that he's got so much leverage on in the Avengers movies and basically in the Marvels movies, where he literally he does not memorize his lines anymore. He has it be put in front of, on top of, near the camera, or on whoever he's talking to, like literally on their chest is his dialogue. And so he reads it on the fly. And if there's not cases like that, it's being fed to him by somebody in his earpiece so that you get his absolute natural reaction to the first time he read that line on that take.
Okay.
And so that's how you're getting like the greatness out of him. You're getting his first impulse. And so I was like, that's a little absurd. But he got to this point where like memorizing the lines wasn't helping him. Having his natural reaction was helping him more. So yeah, we're getting off topic.
I wonder how much of that stuff is ad-libbed.
Yeah, probably a lot, you know. But you know, when you have great talent, you can get a lot of that good stuff.
With great talent comes great responsibility.
To ad-lib. I'm trying to think who. They were definitely, I forget who it was. That was sort of their primary thing that they had to ad-lib. Do you remember the janitor in Scrubs?
I didn't watch Scrubs.
Oh, okay. So the guy that plays, I can't think of the guy's name. I'm blanking on his name. The guy who played the janitor in Scrubs. They look, all the cast were pretty good talent, so they would just sort of nail the lines that they needed. And then Bill Lawrence, the producer, would allow them to also give them sort of ad-libbed takes, well within the moment. After they nailed it. And then there were times, a lot of the times, those ad-libs were better than the actual, like, serious take. And those things would make their way into the series. So, well, anyhow. Marvel stuff, yes. Yay.
Yes, yay.
I saw Aquaman.
I'm going to see Endgame.
Yeah.
In a very special event.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk about it more, but
3 days prior.
Everybody else.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to see it under that context.
I'm not seeing it like at a special event or something. It's just they have over here in the Netherlands, they usually show people the movie early for some reason. So we get to see Marvel movies way early.
Yeah.
We're seeing it 6 hours earlier than anybody else, and before it's like 6 hours before it's midnight on the 24th.
You can pre-order things here in the U.S. and they will show it to you basically at midnight, so you can watch it. So, for example, if there is the case where the movie was releasing on a Wednesday, because there are times where things like that happened. It doesn't always mean it's releasing on a Friday. Then yes, you could pre-order your things on, well prior for a Tuesday late night, which is technically becomes midnight, and then they'll show it to you early. But most of the time that stuff becomes Thursday nights. And I've had, for certain things, especially like Star Wars, I've had friends who are like, oh, we're seeing tonight. It's Thursday. It doesn't come out till tomorrow. I know, we're seeing a midnight showing. And then I'm going to work tomorrow. And I'm like, I don't do those things anymore. Sorry, dude. I can chill. I can chill. So maybe I see it on opening weekend. Probably not. Maybe I see it in the theater. More likely, I'm going to see it around Christmas time when I buy it.
I think you need to go see it in the theater. It's going to be a good one.
We'll see. That's the kind of movie where I was like, hey, to one of my friends, like my buddy Matt, and it's like, hey, you want to go see this movie? And it's like, knowing him, he'll say, oh, sure, I'll watch it for the 5th time with you.
Actually,
because then you find out he saw it
Infinity.
opening weekend and he saw it with other people. matinees, and then it's not even the first weekend. He's like, I'll watch it with you for the 5th time.
So last year, April 24th, 23rd, was when I saw the Avengers Infinity War, and a couple of days later, I was in the hospital. So I already had like a fever and shit in that week already. So I was like, I didn't remember much of that movie.
Yeah.
So about a week later, after I came home from the hospital, I was like, to my brother, I was like, I want to go see that movie. Oh wait, yeah, you already seen it. And you're like, yeah, I don't remember much of it, so I want to go watch it again. Because I don't know if it was the sedatives or something like that caused me to forget it, but I did forget like a large part of that week. Might have been the fever, but yeah.
I don't remember seeing it in the theater. I don't think anyone who would go see it had already seen it, and that was like within the first week. And the way my sort of lifestyle of things that's outside of work is pretty consuming, so I didn't really have any real good opportunity to see it in the theater. So I just saw it after I bought it. That's how I saw it. But that's okay with me. I can be patient. I'm not one of those FOMO water cooler people where I have to like know before everyone else knows so that I can hold up my arrogant understanding of something in a moment. Like I'm not one of those people. I don't really
it's not like that for me.
That way.
I want to see it because I have seen all the other movies and I want to go watch this movie.
Yeah, right. I get that too. But I also have just those people around me that like are more addicted to being the inside loop person versus just seeing the movie. Right? And there's lots of individuals around me who are like that. No, I have to know so I can be included in the conversation when it initially happens so I can feel privileged. Like, yeah, I'm just not one of those people.
I just want to see how it ends. I just want to know.
Will it really end?
Well, I already know it's not going to end.
Well, also,
we already know what movies are going to come out. I know there's going to be another Black Panther movie, so Black Panther is going to survive.
How are they going to wiggle
going to survive?
Yeah, but like, how are they going to wiggle their way into people coming back that are gone? So, it's not the end game; it's the next game.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyhow, so this is a couple weeks before it actually is available. Few weeks before.
In the next episode, we'll probably talk about Endgame, like 2 weeks after the movie came out.
You might. I might not have seen it yet. We'll see. Okay. We'll see how it comes out.
We'll see.
So
from all I can say is that don't waste your money in Shazam.
Yeah. Okay.
Just wait for the DVD or buy it in SD format.
Right. I'll watch the rental. It'll cost me less than the movie ticket.
Yeah, so we wanted to talk a little bit about having some gear we've been looking forward to buying. So I've got some money coming in soon, like extra monies, and I'm gonna waste it on something.
I have opportunity as long as I viciously behave myself. I can let money compound and then I can spend it on things. And usually the kinds of things that I buy aren't like a $50 thing. That's easy to afford without like much fiscal impact that's negative to my life. It's the $1,000 things that I use my money. I don't always let, $10,000 just pile up and sit around with no intended purpose, right? I spend my money with intention when I spend it. And collectively over the years, I've had to train myself to behave a little better so that I can afford $2,000 kinds of things, like a new laptop, right? That's a powerful device, right? This one's a couple years old. I'm ready for a new one, but I'm not, I don't have $2,000 just sitting around ready for that kind of purpose.
Didn't you just get that laptop?
I got it in somewhere in late 2017 when it was brand new in 2017. And so they've come out with a better version. And probably the next couple years, I don't know, they might come out with a better version. The new version with the i8 Gen Intel is much more power efficient. Actually, I think they gave it an i9, actually.
Oh,
The
wow.
high end of it. The equivalent of this in 2019, or I think maybe end of 2018, was basically one with an i9 in it. Way more power efficient. Though I don't think they switched out the graphics card. That's the only kind of downfall. Maybe they put a 1060 in. They might still have a 1050 in there.
So you've been looking. So you've been looking to get a camera, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
did you decide on which one you wanted to get?
Yeah, I've come to a conclusion, and I've sort of budget priced out what that looks like, so I know what the kind of financials I need to achieve for it. I am a person who is going to hold on and build that cash flow up and have that money, and then I'm going to buy the thing outright. I'm not a put it on my credit card and finance it 6 months person. So it doesn't come quickly, but it comes eventually.
So which one do you want to get?
I've chosen the Sony A6400.
Okay.
Which
so
is
the one that was on iJustine's thing, and
but
several other YouTubers.
I don't know where I saw it first. It wasn't iJustine. In fact, I didn't even watch her thing. I'm not sure who I saw it with, but I heard about it through one of the other like tech people. I just can't remember who. There's some like camera people that I follow too, that are completely independent of like Lou and Marquez and Linus. They don't talk about cameras though.
I am unsubscribed to Unbox Therapy this week. He's like the latest video of his was like with him with his hand on his face saying, "Oh, I'm switching to the something or other phone." I'm like, dude, come on. Every single time you say you switch to another phone because you think this is horrible, you switch to a tablet because you wanted to stop using laptops. I mean, this thing, every single time he does this, he changes something to something else, and then he switches back like within a day. And I'm like, yeah, sure, man, you're totally unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't want to watch your shit anymore.
I have found myself with certain YouTubers that I'm still subscribed to. I don't always watch their videos. I'll just skip them. I see it in the inbox and I don't even bother opening up. I just move on past it. And you look at it, or you say, okay, I'm curious for a second. And there's a certain point of my night where I need to like go edit something or go to sleep, and watching that 10-minute video of something like what you're talking about, it's like not worth it. Or I'm just not interested in it. Like, oh, let me talk about this piece of hardware and this new Alienware. Like, I'm not interested. I will never buy one of those. At least at this point in time, I'm not likely to buy it. So I'll just skip the review on it.
Well, it's the same thing that I subscribe to a couple of YouTubers that do the tech stuff, but also subscribe to a lot of gaming YouTubers. But,
sure.
It's like the same thing with, what's his name? Austin Evans. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So he does the same thing. Like he switched to something or other. I just don't have time for that. I just take them off my subscribe list. But then there's YouTubers like Casey Neistat that keeps doing new stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So he has one of those moments where he's like, "Oh, I'm going to stop using social media." In a couple of weeks, he's going to go back on it.
And it's been a couple of weeks later.
That's not the thing, right?
Yeah.
The thing is when Lou from Unbox Therapy says, well, I'm going to stop using, I'm going to switch to this phone as my daily driver. Yeah, it's not believable anymore because he switches to these things every couple of weeks. He says, oh, I'm going to stop doing this. I'm going to not use a laptop anymore or something or other. I'm like, yeah, okay. It's just not believable anymore. I'm just unsubscribe.
Not that we should stay on Lou as a tangent, but one thing I will give him credit for, even though I know it's a good tactic now, and I'm sure he's like the guy that we see on camera is probably the same person he is in real life. I don't get my bullshit meter does not flag off, hit red alert when I see this stuff. But to the point is he used to be unbridled enthusiasm, and now he is so much not that person anymore. And he also used to be, he's never been like full on iOS universe person. Right? You know what I mean? Like you see Sarah Dietschy or iJustine, they're clearly just iOS people. And
which is fine.
Anytime they are taking another device like Android or a thing they naturally don't like or approve of, you know there's a sponsorship relationship there, and they're only doing it for that. Even though they're giving you fairly like honest take on it, it is in that unbridled enthusiasm for the thing that they're being paid for. And I'm not saying that iJustine's a full like, you know, phony. I'm not saying that at all, because I don't believe that about her. But she's also like, this is sponsored and I'm going to try it out. Like her enthusiasm is honest, even if that's not the thing that she personally prefers. You know, there's no facade there. Like,
yeah, but when I look at, and this last time I'm gonna bring it up, but when you look at the thumbnails for the videos, like I keep seeing it's almost like it's the same thumbnail again. I was trying to look back through the history of all the videos from Unbox Therapy and see if I could find the same one I thought this was. Yeah. I was like, why did this come up again? I thought I saw that video already. Wait, no, it's the same thing over the same thing again, but it's a different video, different thumbnail. But I couldn't find the original thumbnail again.
I generally just watch them as they come out within the next, you know, within like 48 hours, within like the day of 2 days. That's it. Or I skip it and I move on. The fear of missing out is not that high for me. Because there's so much stuff that's coming in. There's more noise than signal. So, but anyhow, so gear, right?
Yeah, sorry.
So camera. So A6400 is, look, I bought this other camera, the one that I have, the T2i, and it's a good camera. Has possibility. It was certainly better than its previous version, and my roommate has the T3i that was too complex for him, so he just put it on a shelf and let it collect dust, and he lets me use it when I have needs for a second camera, and the improvement was huge. And then I've seen people like with their T6Is and 5Is, and they're significant improvements. And I could totally get into one of those cameras for a lot less than the A6400 body. But I chose it for a couple reasons. One, mirrorless cameras have a lot of value add in terms of weight. So there's that. And that becomes a really open opportunity for a lot of these affordable level 3 axis cameras, right? Because my camera as is with a lens, it hits like that 6 to 8 pounds, and most of those things, even the $700 ones, can't handle that kind of weight real successfully to do your sort of 3-axis glide cam things. And I do have actual needs for those things sometimes. And I bought a actual glide cam, and I calibrated this camera that can handle that weight, and I just don't have the muscles for it. I just don't have the skills, and I'm not going to ever get there quickly to do that. I'd rather have something that does the balancing better for me. And so for me, I think my solution has always been 3-axis cameras. And so you have a lot more options when you get into mirrorless, because the weight difference is huge. Yeah. Plus, I need a modern camera. So
yeah, the thing you currently have is like up for like retirement. Your current camera needs to be taken behind the shed.
It's ready for retirement. Yeah. And there's lots of little, and I'm helping out with a documentary, and I have a need. And while you can, in the right scenarios, you can kind of set it up in such a way we can get pretty good quality out of those old cameras. They're nearly 8 or 9 years old. That's fine, but they're problematic. Like, we did a bunch of interviews, a set of interviews back in beginning of February, and the T3i, not my camera, my roommate's camera, worked just fine in most of the cases. And if it hit its limit of like 12 minutes, it just went on to a brand new file. And maybe there's like maybe 10 milliseconds missing between those cuts. And then on my camera, it basically freaks out. Battery burns out. It heats up. Like the technical improvements that were made between one version and the other are significant. And it becomes problematic. You literally need 2 or 3 people managing those cameras, checking on everything, making sure everything is working while the production of the interview is happening. And you get good quality look out of them because of setting up and lighting the environment well. So a friend of mine who's helping me out with this thing, unbeknownst to him, I made him the director on this project, but he has, because this is sort of what he does for a living, and he's done documentaries in his personal life too. Mm-hmm. He has like a Sony A7S II. Yeah. And then he has like a small HD, recording monitor. And between the combination of all that stuff, those things are just more modern, even though the A7S II is outdated. It's been sort of supplemented by the Mark III. Point being is that it just sort of went through and recorded 22 minutes, no problem, right? And so the technical complication for my needs that are more immediate, I just need a new camera. Like there's been a huge gap of improvements there. Plus, 4K is not a fad anymore. It's staying around, even though we're still watching, most of the world is still watching things in 2K. So I need to get on board with that. And I want to be able to record in flat logs like S-Log, right? Canon, it's C-Log, but like neutral profiles that are perfect for post-production and color grading. Yeah. And so this camera lets me get there very quickly in a very affordable price point, $900 US without a lens. And this is the only difference here is any Sony cameras I've had in the past are not like this. So I need to get a new lens. So that's going to cost me something too.
That's the thing that's been holding me back from getting a new camera body.
Yeah, but it shouldn't.
On a different system.
Yeah.
Because if I get another Canon body, then I can just use all my same lenses, right? Maybe have a small adapter on it, but it won't work.
Yeah. For the documentary though, I'm using an H6, and then like NTG mics, basically super cardioid mics, and a whole setup, and we're recording on that, and that works flawlessly, no problem, even though it's an old piece of gear by every standard today, and it's actually still used with a lot of people. So with that said, with all this gear set up more like a actual production, I'm able to get what I need done achieved even with some old hardware. So getting a new camera has now become a necessity, and I've been ready for it for a very long time. And anything I get new is going to exceed the quality level of my existing resources. And so that is kind of where I'm at with that. And also the fact that I can put some modern gear on it. If I want to go from a Micro Four Thirds, cropped sensor to a full frame sensor, the only difference is that my lens will go with it. And if I get one of those monitor hardware recorders.
Yeah, one of the Ninja things.
Yeah, one of the Atmos, the Ninjas. That will translate into, let's say, an A7S III or Mark IV. If that's when I do it, right? A full frame camera. It'll go with it. And I use the same tactic too. Is I bought a $600 lens and I won't be able to use it. Well, you can get speed boosters, or you can get adapters for. I mean, they're not cheap, but $200 to $250. You can get little mounts for different camera formats. They will work well. They won't work as naturally as like a naturally made by Sony lens. Yeah. So, I mean, it depends on what your use case is. If you're vlogging, the A6400 is probably overboard, right? Because what you want is sort of run and gun and shoot and click and, hey, look at me near a waterfall. I made a vlog in 10 minutes and I edited it for 12 and then I put it up on YouTube. If that's your goal, this is probably overkill. It's also overkill for you to be walking around with a $15,000 camera body doing the same thing, right? Or walking around with a red camera doing the same thing.
Like, get one of those red things.
Yeah. If it wasn't so heavy, I'm pretty positive that Casey would have put a red camera on a tripod and would be carrying it around. Not to mention the fact that he's got the muscles to hold the thing up if he wanted to do such a thing. But he's so reckless to get his shots. I don't mean like careless.
He'd break one like in the first week.
He broke. Did you see the one video where he broke his ADD, Canon ADD?
Hasn't he got like a wall of those things?
Well, he has a wall of all his broken cameras, but also he can afford to do it. I mean, for him to go spend drop $2,000 is like nothing. For him, it's like pocket change in his general budget of resources. But there was one thing where he was in town for something and he broke his ADD where he couldn't use the audio jack, or he broke it. And so what he did is he went to Best Buy and he saw this guy staring at the very camera he was going to go just buy. And he was talking with the guy and he's like, well, what are you going to use it for? He's like, I don't know. I just want to get into photography. I said, so here, I'll make you a deal. I said, I just broke the jack on here. Everything is perfect with the camera except you can't use the microphone external jack anymore. So I'm going to buy the ADD and I'll give you my existing camera. And he did that. And he gave the guy an existing camera. The guy walked away with a camera that he could play with to learn photography. And then when he's ready, he'll spend the real money to get a real, probably a new version of it, I guess. Yeah, so I don't know. That was a tangent that was probably not necessary. Yeah, but I don't know. I'm ready for a camera upgrade, and I have a legitimate use case for it within the next couple months. I'd rather be working with some new gear that's going to make this process a lot easier and less, more frictionless, than dealing with resources that are unpredictable.
I've been looking at getting one of those Atmos, whatever, the Ninja recorders for a couple of years now, because I wanted to I have the AverMedia Live Gamer Portable to record like video game footage, which is fine, just limited to 1920 by 1080. So, anything bigger and it caps it. So I recently bought a 29-inch widescreen. I was like, yeah, let's plug this thing in, and then it wouldn't go above 1920. It was like really distorted view. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Thing is, that thing limits it. So I had to put that on a separate monitor, and then use OBS to record on that thing. But the I don't know if that thing will do it. And now it can record 4K, so it probably can record a different resolution as well.
Sure,
but I have to look into it.
You got to be careful.
The thing,
you got to look at them. Someone will output 4K, which is basically the pass-through, but only records 2K. So there is a price difference between those $200.
Yeah, they're expensive.
Yeah, and I mean I think you're averaging like $600 to $700.
Yeah.
Some cases like $800. But the ones that do 4K, that advertise 4K, you got to look to see if they're going to record 4K, if that's important to you.
Yep.
Small HD has their focus monitors. They do very similar things. The Atmos do it. Was it the other one? Gnarlbox doesn't have a monitor connected to it, but will just take the output and then pass it back out, and we'll do those hardware recording to SSDs or compact flash, depending on. The one gotcha, at least on the Sony cameras, and I think it's the same thing with the Canons, is they output higher resolution than they actually record internally. So the value add for some of these monitors is that you can, in the case of the Sonys, I know that they put out 10-bit. And these recorders that record 10-bit can take it, but the Sonys naturally don't record 10-bit. Now, I don't know if that's new for the most current model. I don't know that the A6400 does that or not. I don't recall in the spec. I don't know if the A7S Mark III does that either. I don't know. That might have been one of the improvements. But the other thing is when you are using color grading and you're using LUTs, lookup tables, presets, you can, a lot of these monitors like the small HDs and including the Atmos, I think I'm saying it's Atmos. I think that's what it is, the Ninjas.
Yeah.
They can take those LUTs, you can load them up into your monitor. And so while you're outputting a flat profile, you can see what it would look like in your post-production in real time. And so that's where some of the value add, aside from being also a recorder. It's not just a monitor, it's a color accurate monitor that allows you to put up professional things like zebras and histograms and stuff like that, so that you can do your best in the actual moment to capture it right. What they're not good for is for you to attach it to your vlogging camera and use it like a GoPro. That's not what those things are meant for.
I don't think they can withstand the same things that a GoPro can withstand.
No. Well, GoPros are, they're high quality cell phone cameras.
Yeah.
And they have
waterproof.
Sort of extensified that whole situation.
Yeah. By the way, it's called Atomos. So Atomos.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. Whatever, I bookmarked it and I was like, I'm ready to get it when I'm ready to get it. First, I got to have the cash. So lens, camera, body, I've already sorted out what I'm going to get. And then on the eventual list, a very expensive cinematic art lens that will go onto said mount. Actually, not technically, they don't make it for Sony. So additionally, I have to add another $250 Canon mount to Sony mount, which means I could also use it on one of my, actual like old Canon cameras,
which will be like a waste.
Right, which would be a waste.
Attaching it to the camera devaluates the lens.
However, one of the people that is helping out with the interviewing of the documentary, he owns a 7D. So we could, if I had that, we could in theory use his camera for filming and stick it on that, So anyhow, the whole long and short of it is that's some of the reasons why I'm buying it. Plus, I'm ready for an upgrade.
Yeah.
I'm also ready for some audio upgrade, at least here in the studio. I don't know about you.
I'm looking forward to buying the Zoom L12.
Mm-hmm.
And that will give me the ability to mix the different things, like have multiple people on Skype, have like multiple things coming in, and then them not hearing everything that I'm hearing, or each other, or themselves in this case.
It's a full digital mixer, and I expect out to buy the L20, but then my need for this camera developed. So the money that goes towards that is going into this first. And then what's next on my list is to buy the L20, which then will fall in place with my existing studio gear. And I will be replacing the board that I'm using today, which has been problematic.
Are you replacing it today, or are you replacing the thing that you're using today eventually?
When I buy the L20 or whatever the incarnation of that is, because I noticed recently Zoom has some new releases. Now the F8 is now the F8N. So they, by that time it comes out, maybe they have an L20N. I don't know. But I will replace.
The reason I like it, like the L20s and the L12s, is because it has a recorder in it.
Yeah,
so I can record to like that part. The only thing is that why I like the H4N is because you can have the recorder still be powered even though the power goes off. Yeah, that's going to be a problem with the L12 because it's only powered off the transformer. So there's no
because it's not meant to be a portable solution.
Bank. Yeah.
I mean, here's the other advantage of going with the Sony cameras. They have USB-C on them. So obviously data transfer is going to be great on these things, but also I can power it with battery banks that I spent $30 on, and they work amazing. So if I run out of battery problems, I can just power the guy with, my 20,000 milliamp battery, no problem. And they last amazing for it. So that's the other advantage of going upwards to something a little bit more, not just because of the technology and look and feel and all the other things that are important. I mean, there's a list. I didn't go through that list. But that's a good feature app because I have a ton of these batteries. You'd spend $30 and buy a 20,000 milliamp battery, and those are great backups for things.
Okay, but even though I haven't had that problem yet, right? So I haven't had like the power goes out, right? I haven't had that problem yet, ever. I've lost footage, but usually because the recorder on the AverMedia thing broke and it stopped recording the game audio. Yeah, so I've had that problem before, but that's all powered off, the PC itself, and it doesn't have like anything else. But I don't want the files to be corrupted, like for the audio recordings, and even though the power goes out, it will still be able to finish the file and not have like a corrupted file somewhere or missing data like for a few milliseconds or a few seconds before it actually writes it to the SD card. Right, so that's a fear I have, and it's probably an irrational fear, and it just doesn't really matter. But right. Like I am like a data hoarder for that kind of stuff. So when I have things, I have backups upon backups upon backups. So the Zoom L12 is also kind of a scary thing for me because it takes that bit of safety out of it. It's the same thing with like painting, drawing, and stuff. Like I have an iPad and I do drawings on that, but then I don't have the ability to stream off that. But now I'm building out the stuff to be able to stream off my iPad. So right?
The advantage of the L12 and the L20, they're basically digital mixers. They the one mixer I have today has two subgroups, so 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So it basically is what you would call a 4-bus mixer. It also has the main mix. So I can do sort of a mix minus up to two cases for things like Skype, right? And this board has direct outs for the first 8 channels, which I have basically 5 mics connected to. And then I've also moved them around on some of the other outputs. And so what I can do is I bought years ago, I bought a Tascam 16-channel audio interface, and I use that to record directly into using like the laptop and Audition, anything that uses ASIO, and I can record off each of these channels separately. But in my mixer, it's totally analog. It's going from the mics analog through wires to whatever, which can introduce signal loss, noise bleed, which has happened. And even though I'm recording it digitally and getting all those 8 channels, the one advantage with the L12 and the L20 is that you can get you're getting what goes in digitally just within the circuitry on the board, literally 2 separated files plus a mixed down file, which would be the main output, the main mix. And that's one of the advantages of having that recorder in there. Plus, while you're doing that, you can also send it out as an audio interface. So you could send it into something digitally right into Audition, anything that does ASIO.
Yeah.
And so that's the advantage, is that if you need those both scenarios, you can. The only disadvantage is it's not a portable solution, needs some actual high voltage power. So I mean, it's not going to...
I would hook my H4n up to my camera.
Right, and you could do things like that too. The other advantage for me to get the L20 is then what it does is I'll have a spare board that I don't know how reliable it is because I used it for... I got it, I don't know, relatively shortly after I moved in here. This board is probably good 5 to 7 years old, and I got my money's worth out of it. Yeah, I would say that's probably really true. And it sits down in a basement where until last couple years, maybe last year, I bought a humidifier to dehumidify the basement during the summertime. So it was getting getting bad in here. It was hard to tell that, and so I probably have ruined the board as a result of not controlling.
Would you call it is because of the otaku funk?
Nope, not because of that. But and so I probably ruined the board from that, and it literally my compressors are starting to burn out too, and so there are lots of advantages to get the Zoom L model mixer recorders. There's a lot of inline advantages. It would, and again, I don't know how quickly I'll do it, but it would allow me to free up my F4 recorder that I record a lot of things on. And then I can pull this out of the circuit, and then maybe for the documentary, I don't use the HN, but then maybe I use the F4 instead in place of for my recorder, which then gives me a spare recorder for the H6N to be used for other things. So it gives me more gear that I can reuse for other things. So those are, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it this year as long as, the finances are there to do it. But first for me on that list is new camera and some related gear. But also I bought a Pelican case. I like it. I need to buy 2 more.
What would you buy a Pelican case for?
Well, for the documentary, I literally bought a 1510 Pelican case to put maybe eventually a lot of the gear to consolidate a lot of the stuff that I need to travel with for on location for when I set up the filming sets to do these interviews. And I'm certainly going to need to travel to the main event when we do a lot of setup there. And I have this sort of mess of stuff sitting all over the place upstairs. C-stands you can't, put into a case. You just have to carry those physically. But there's lots of like lighting gear. They come with cases, but I bought Viltroxes, and while they're a step above other cheap made lights, their cases are likely to like split apart and the zippers to go and whatever. So I could stick those in cases that protect them and have foam padding and stuff in them. That's going to be useful. So I've looked at the generality of what I need for cables and potentially new camera and all that stuff, and I'm going to want to put them in Pelican cases. And to buy one with the pull and pluck foam, which is the cheapest of the options, is $190 for that case. And then they have some other variations that have some different kinds of divider insides or whatever. It costs like $20 more. So, these are accessories that once I get that camera, I still need to buy all this other stuff. I still need to buy a bunch of accessories that cost money. It's gear, but it's not the kind of gear people associate with like new laptop and new camera and new hardware recorder and new smartphone, or aperture lights. Those are 2020 costs.
Yep.
So yeah, I think this is a topic we could talk about for a long time.
I've got another thing in the queue for myself, which is I have a 2015 MacBook, like the MacBook, the base level MacBook, like the thing that replaced the Air eventually. Mm-hmm. So I've been thinking about getting a Pro, getting getting an actual Pro for myself. So I have one for work, which is great. And with the new keyboard, it's kind of there's not as much trouble as I had with the other one. I had another Pro before this. I had some trouble with the keyboard. The new keyboard doesn't have this much trouble as the other one. So I've been thinking about spending the money on getting a Pro for myself because although the MacBook is great, it's very portable. I would like to get like a 13-inch MacBook Pro because it's handleable. I currently have a 13-inch MacBook Pro for work, but I want to get a same one, well, not the same spec because the thing for work is insane because what I do for work is insane. It needs a lot of computing power. But the base level MacBook Pros basically, but just for my own projects and stuff that I can travel with. The reason I want a MacBook instead of like a Windows laptop from Dell or something like that is because even though there's trouble with keyboards it's an OS that I know. It's something I can code
Mhm.
on easily because it's Unix, and I can run stuff on there that I want to run on there, which is harder for me to do on Windows at the moment. Although the Windows things is a lot cheaper, and I could do Windows subsystem for Linux, all of that
Yeah.
sort of stuff. But
You could do that. You could also
I don't want the headache
just put
of it
Ubuntu on
breaking.
there, but that's, look, that's what you're comfortable with. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm never going to say to somebody, well, you can. Yeah, you
I
can.
wasn't defending myself for that,
Yeah.
but I'm like more because I understand that these laptops are expensive.
Yeah.
That's why I've been saving money to get a new one. Like last time I spent money on a MacBook was 3 years ago. Yeah, 3 years ago to get a second-hand MacBook.
Mhm.
Like I got the 2015 model from an Apple employee, like one of the Apple stores. He bought it for like cheap, and then I got it basically for a new price. But it was a good bargain.
You got to ask yourself a question: how all the people that buy brand new whatever, I mean, clearly they're selling the old one. I don't do that really. I still make use of my old hardware.
I do sell some of my old hardware, but
Yeah.
most of it gets sent off to somebody else. So
Right.
what I usually do is I gift it to, like, my mom has my old MacBook Pro.
Mhm.
My dad has my old MacBook Air. Right? So
Yeah.
they shift over to the next generation. And then my mom has my old Samsung Galaxy S6.
Yeah, and I would do the same thing. Like, I know my stepbrother royally screwed up his new laptop, new being maybe a couple years ago. And it was like a mid-level laptop. It was not a $2,000, $1,500 laptop. It was maybe at best a $500, $600 laptop. And it serves him really well. But he showed me a picture, I think even this year, complaining that he broke it and that he can't afford getting a new one. And like, what could I get a $300 one? And aside from the topic of you can, but you're going to be complaining about it. My point that I'm going on for this tangent was that even though my laptop is fairly capable today, if I was to buy a brand new laptop, let's say money was not the issue and I was to buy a brand new laptop, whatever the equivalent version of this replaced with like the i9 and 64 gigs of RAM, and and then I just replaced the terabyte drive in there with something bigger on my own and spent a lot of money, and then I still have this very usable laptop and gifted it to him. In 2 years, in a year, it's not going to be so top notch anymore, and all I'm going to hear constantly is, well, you gave me this laptop for free and now I got to complain about it. Like, that's the kind of situation I get stuck in. So I don't normally gift these things to people because my family does that. In 3 years they complain, well, it's not capable of. I said, I gave it to you for free, dude. So when I've done stuff like that in the past, all I get is gruff for it. So I don't.
Yeah.
I might give it to a friend, right, who might do something valuable with it, but I don't give it to family because they're very unappreciative in this area when I've done stuff like that in the past.
Luckily, my family is a bit better with that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we have some fun stuff to share. I think we could talk about new gear for like another hour.
Yeah, but I mean, I think
Stuff
we should
that
do.
we want.
I think after we get some of this gear, we should probably chat about do another little gear topic so it doesn't bleed into like out of what's hot at the top of the shows.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, we have some fun stuff. Keeping the links pretty small. I have a short film here. In the time it takes to get there. I thought it was kind of cool. I saw this recently. Polymatic.link/PS. Did you watch this, John?
Yep, I did.
Yeah, what'd you think?
Yeah. It's kind of a social commentary as well, right?
Sure, yeah, but I thought it was kind of in a interesting format.
Yeah,
So,
I didn't really realize why Adobe was doing this. I didn't really realize.
I don't either. I think it's just a matter of I actual celebrities in this film, made by an actual celebrity who's been known to direct things, made this thing with Adobe. So why they're doing that, I don't know. Maybe it's because showing off the capability of using Adobe, software to do a thing. But if this was done any other format, it wouldn't have a budget, right? And this had a budget. So I think that's an okay compromise. I thought it was pretty good, considering,
Yep.
Yeah.
Speaking of Adobe, have you watched this video?
I have not, but I will.
So Adobe has a feature in Photoshop where they have content-aware fill.
Oh, yeah.
So they put that into Premiere.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, After Effects. So you can...
After Effects, right. You can do it in Premiere. Yeah.
You can content-aware fill pieces of a video. It's like, I'm going to Photoshop out so many people out of videos. You can finally Photoshop that one woman at the beach wedding that's standing behind the happy, not so happy couple because she was there person. Just Photoshop them out. It's no longer there.
Look, Adobe makes some pretty good stuff. Not all the things, but there's some pretty good things that they do really well.
So for some Adobe magic, so Polymatic.media/PT for that video.
Okay. Awesome. All right. So, Orla Gartland, I'm a fan because this is your fault, John. So, I help. I'm involved in like Discord and stuff with her fandom and stuff like that. But I do really like her music. I support her on Patreon. So she finally released a non-demo version of one of her songs called Flatline, and it was released this week. And she made a music video for it, Polymatic.link/PQ, and she's been sort of touring with this one song recently this year. So it's a good song. I like it. And I mean, to me, I've heard the demo because I'm a part of a level of the Patreon that I got to hear the demo well ahead of this. But it's a good song, and here's the final release version, and you can buy it now. But Polymatic.link/PQ. I just thought I'd promote that because that was somebody I've been listening to this week.
Okay. So I've been sharing stuff from JViews a few times, I think. He came out with a new track and is actually pretty good. So Polymatic.link/PU for JViews Y.
Okay.
It's similar to his stuff, his other stuff, but it's like it's got its own theme. So just go watch the video.
All right, I'll check that out.
I don't know how to promote it any better than that. Okay, so we got we got some outro stuff to do, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. So Alan, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at CHAESS. That's my last name.
Are you still on Mastodon?
I am. You can find me there too at Alan at JAWNS.club.
Okay. You can find me on Twitter at twitter.com/webdevy, WEBDEVVIE, or feedback. You can reach us at podcast@Polymatic.media. Our music is by Say Uns, which you can find at Polymatic.link/EK. The Twitter is The Polymatic. The website is Polymatic.media, and I hope you tune in next time.